How to write a book with ease very quickly. So I just finished my, I think, 10th book, and I've kind of lost count at this point. This book is pretty hefty, though. It's 481 pages, and it's a wild tale. It's available now via the link in this thing, Sun in the Search for Something, and I really enjoyed writing this book, and I enjoy writing all books, because if I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't do it. I'm not trying to be an author, although I guess after 10 books, people start calling you one. But I've figured out a way to write that is incredibly easy. And there's a lot of people out there that are like, how do I write my own book? How do I get the word out there? I have this book inside of me and it wants to be released. And yeah, I was talking to my friend Amelia yesterday, and she's like, I always remember when I asked you about how you write your books, and you're like, it's kind of like taking a poop. And it's really what it is. The writing part isn't hard. The living part is the challenge. Can you live a life well lived? Because to capture that in a story only takes a few little things. I'm going to explain these things to you right now. And once you get it, you could probably go home today and write the beginning of your life story or whatever you want. Now, I'm not saying we all need to be authors. When I go to the freaking library, I'm like, Jesus, how many people? Is everybody we know just writing books? Even just like the cookbook section alone, I'm like, does everybody have a cookbook? This is insane. But I understand, books are beautiful. There's something really nice about getting stuck in a beautiful story or reading something for inspiration. Now, the reason I say that the hard part about writing a book is living is because when you live your life, there's so many intricacies, there's so many different things that you have to figure out, because there is no book for life. So to understand how to live, it's very complicated, and people have this 10 ways to live this way, or how I became there's a million self-help books out there that try to give us tips and things to help live our life. All fine and well, but still, you are you, and what makes you you is the uniqueness of the life that you've lived, and the stories, and the people that you've been, the places you've gone, and the characters and friends that you've had, and the love and the heartbreak and all that stuff. That's experiencing heartbreak, experiencing loss of people in your life that you love and care about, losing jobs and friends, and growing in pain and suffering. That is the hard part. Capturing it, in comparison, is actually quite simple. But there's a trick that I rarely see people talk about, and I don't even know how I kind of learned this. I think just from many years of writing and also my writing process. When I'm writing, I never look at what I'm writing until I'm done. I sit down, I start to write, and I let it flow out. Just like I'm sitting on the toilet and I'm pooping. I just let the poop release, right? I ate food, sorry for the graphic visual, it digested into my body. So the eating is like the experiencing of life, and then your body is digesting it, and then it's just coming out. So we have these experiences, just like when we're eating, and then our being, our soul, our spirit is digesting all those experiences, and maybe it's coming out in different ways of joy and laughter and sadness and pain and whatever you imagine. And then we sit on the toilet and we release that. If we're so concerned with how we're pooping, this is where the metaphor gets weird. It becomes very challenging. But if we can just sit back and relax and let it out. And then, eventually you kind of do the review process, and some people like to look at their poop, me included, and be, oh, look at that, I digested that well, or look, I didn't have to wipe, that was pretty amazing, whatever it is. So the point is, when you're writing, you have to be able to create a space where you can just let it out. It doesn't matter whether it's 10 pages or 1,000. I think when I first wrote this book, it was 10 days straight. I wrote 120,000 words in 10 days. A lot of authors write maybe 1,000 or a couple thousand words a day. That was very, very, very many. 12,000 words a day on average. And the book just came out. And now I've written a lot of nonfiction, but fiction is different because you're creating characters and you're crafting stories. But to me, it's like a puzzle. The characters, in a way, are always there. There's only so many people that exist in this world, so many archetypes, so many characters, and so many things they can do and choices, and it almost becomes obvious. The characters start to write themselves in a very strange way. But again, the key is you need to create a space where you can let it come out. So how do you do that? Well, I found the most valuable, magical way to do that is A, to not look back, but also to not judge yourself. Because when we start looking back, when I'm writing, and then I read the previous sentence, oh, that wasn't good, let me rewrite that, I'm missing the flow. So what I do is I create a space where I just have freeness to write, and I just let the story come out. I'm not concerned with whether the structure is good, or if I explain that character right, or if it even makes any sense. It's like a surfer waiting for a wave. You wait, you wait, you wait. You feel this, okay, there's another book in me. And when I wrote this book, it was not planned. I had spent 3 weeks off of technology, and Aja and I were doing this really intense type of like retreat fasting thing where we didn't eat food for 7 days and didn't drink water for 3.5 of those days. And part of it was 3 weeks of no technology at all. We're just sitting in the jungle in Costa Rica. And right when I got back on technology, first off, I was like, oh, I do not miss the internet at all. But there was a book inside of me that wanted to come out, and I just started writing. And the characters just started unfolding and doing their thing, and I was just there kind of the witnessing of it. Because I lived the life. I've met all these people, and people and places, and I've seen how they kind of maybe interact, even though it's fiction. Like they're out there, and I just let them flow through me. And I think maybe the hardest part about writing a book is that when people write, they think, okay, this is my belief, this is who I am, or this is the experience. I need to write this so that I do not get judged. If I put this out into the world, people are going to be reading my deepest and darkest secrets, or my this and that and the other thing. And what if they don't like it, or what if they think ill of me? I never think about those things because I'm not concerned. For me, like I said, it's a poop. I don't care what once the poop's out there, it goes off into the compost and it's doing its thing. At least our poop, we have a compost toilet, and we turn our poop into something new. But I'm not responsible for it once it comes out of me. It's not my belief that I'm holding on to, saying, oh, this is what I believe and I hope you like it. I don't care. I'm just releasing it, and people can make of it whatever they want. They can love it, they can hate it, they can be upset. I've only had 2 people read the book so far, and they both have loved it. And of course, one is my partner, and one is a good friend. But I can tell there's like a excitement around it and a desire to want to share. Cool. When I wrote it, I was not concerned with being on the best-selling list. I wasn't concerned if it was great or if it was going to change the world. I just knew it was in me and it had to come out. So if you're someone who's concerned about writing a book, the number one thing I can tell you is once you release it, just like any piece of content, this applies to anything. When I make a video, when I write a book, once I put it out there, it's out there. Whatever people do with it after is up to them. Now, I try my best to be as clear, and concise and all these things as possible, but it's not mine anymore. Art isn't something that I can hold on to and possessively say, hey, this is mine, this is what I believe, this is who I am. No, the beauty of it is the shedding. When you're writing a book, you're shedding a piece of yourself and you're letting it out. And it's just so much more freeing that way. I know so many people that they start writing a book and they're like, oh, it's just been so hard, I have writer's block. And I've never experienced writer's block. Since I've written books the last 10 or so years, never had writer's block. And the moment I start to feel any kind of like energy weaning, I just stop and step away. I step away from the book, and then it usually comes right back. There's been times where I've written a book and a few years later I pick it back up. And there's times where I wrote like my book about being barefoot, or walking barefoot with your best friend. I wrote start to finish. That book took me like 7 days from start to publish. That was the fastest I've ever written anything. And it just, and the energy was there, and I just went for it, and it was out. This book took a lot longer, but the original writing process was very, very fast. Once I wrote it, then I stepped away for years and just let it kind of sink and let it marinate, and then I came back to it. And once you come back, then that's where the sort of, okay, now I need to edit this, and I need to think about the grammar. And that is a different process than releasing it. Maybe I'll talk more about it in another video, but step 1 is just getting it out. Maybe you get it out and you decide not to put it out into the world. It just feels good to purge these ideas, these experiences. Or maybe you write it and you're like, oh, the world needs to hear this. Great. Then you can start editing it, and maybe you want to find a publisher or not. I personally don't use publishers for my books because they are kind of weird and they're out there and they're different, and publishers tend to want to change things and make them more marketable. And as you can see, I do not care about the marketability of books. I just want to write it, and whoever connects with it, even if it's just one person that reads it and feels a connection, that's beautiful. So yeah, to summarize this video, if you feel like you need to get something out, just let it out. Don't worry about what people are going to think about it, because it's not of your concern. As strange as that sounds, it's not of your concern.